This right here is a major test of what they're calling a ceasefire, but let's be honest, this doesn't look like peace, it looks like pressure. Iran is tightening control over one of the most critical oil routes on the planet, and if this goes sideways, the entire world feels it. If you want real breakdowns like this without the media spin, hit like and subscribe right now, because this story is bigger than they're telling you. So, here's what's happening. Iran is responding to Israeli strikes in Lebanon by flexing control over the Strait of Hormuz. That's not just a regional issue. That's where roughly 20% of the world's oil passes through. And now they're saying ships can pass, but only if they coordinate with Iran's military.
So Tehran is responding to the attacks on Beirut by closing the Strait of Hormuz.
Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yinks is live in Israel with the latest. Good morning, Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. This comes amid talks this weekend in Islamabad, Pakistan. The U.S. delegation will be led by Vice President JD Vance and Special Envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The president overnight on Truth Social issuing a new warning to the Iranian regime, saying in part, quote, all U.S. ships, aircraft, and military personnel with additional ammunition, weaponry, and anything else that is appropriate and necessary for the lethal prosecution and destruction of an already substantially degraded enemy will remain in place and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with. Now, this is coming as all eyes remain on the Strait of Hormuz. We understand yesterday that 4 vessels were able to pass through the strait. Iran does maintain control and says that vessels who pass through the strait have to coordinate with their military. Yesterday, Vice President JD Vance issuing another warning to the Iranian regime at the negotiating table.
But fundamentally, the Iranians have got to take the next step, or the president has a lot of options to go back to the war. The more that they're willing to give us, I think the more they're going to get things out of this negotiation.
Now, the Iranians are threatening to leave these negotiations if Israeli strikes against Hezbollah continue. Dozens of strikes took place yesterday. A senior Israeli official telling Fox News that up to 200 Hezbollah combatants were killed in those strikes. Lebanese media and officials report that many civilians were also among the dead. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday speaking about the goals of this operation.
We have more goals to complete, and we will achieve them either by agreement or by renewing the fighting. We are prepared to return to fighting at any moment necessary. Our finger is on the trigger.
The question is whether or not the Iranians are willing to make a good faith deal, and already many officials in Tehran are contradicting the agreement that was laid out to enter into this 2-week ceasefire. There was a top atomic official today saying that Iran will maintain its ability to enrich uranium, and this comes after those comments yesterday from President Trump that an agreement was reached to allow this uranium to be extracted from where it was deeply buried following Operation Midnight Hammer and removed from the country. Guys?
So today's going to be the big day, Trey, because if you cannot get these ships through the strait, I mean, what's the sense of having a ceasefire? Because that's one of the main functions of this ceasefire, to bring things back while they try to work out the details.
Yeah, absolutely. The Iranians lack leverage at the negotiating table, and once again, this is why they are trying to put pressure on the Strait of Hormuz, where around 20% of the world's oil exports actually pass through. And if they continue to do this, it's an indication that they're not willing to make an agreement. This was one of the reasons that the entire region plunged into this conflict, not just the nuclear issue and their pursuit of a nuclear weapon, but also their efforts to try and choke off the global energy trade. And so the Strait of Hormuz will be incredibly critical, and what the Iranians say in the days ahead will be very important. They're trying to put out a lot of propaganda and try to spin the negotiators ahead of this meeting in Islamabad, and if they're able to do so, it again is an indication that they are not serious about keeping the strait open.
Yeah, Trey, why do they have so much control over the strait? We're being told the Iranian foreign minister said that the country will allow safe passage for any vessels, but they have to coordinate with Iran's armed forces and take certain routes.
So a lot of this has to do with the location of the Strait of Hormuz. This is a body of water at this particular point between the Gulf of Oman and the Persian Gulf that is just about 22 miles wide, and the shipping lanes are actually just 2 miles wide each. And so it gives the Iranians the ability to decide when and where ships are able to pass through, because they control one side and Oman controls the other. And if they continue to threaten this shipping lane, it's an indication that the region could plunge back into conflict, because they have the ability with these mines that they can plant and also with shorter-range cruise missiles to target vessels. And they did this over the past 40 days. And it's incredibly dangerous for these shipping vessels that pass through this area, because if they're worried about hitting a mine or something else, the Iranians are able to use these relatively cheap vessels to interrupt billions of dollars worth of shipping. Reports also indicate that they are trying to charge a toll for ships that pass through. Some reports even indicate they want $1 per barrel for vessel that passes through, and some of the barrels hold up to 2 million barrels of oil on each individual vessel.
Yeah, $2 million a pop to get through. Only 4 got through yesterday. Thanks, Trey. There's also a sense that maybe they're telling them where to go because you know where the mines are.
Right.
So they're going in and out.
At the same time, you've got negotiations happening in Pakistan. U.S. Vice President JD Vance, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, all trying to lock in a deal. But here's the problem. How do you negotiate stability when one side is actively raising the stakes in real time? The U.S. message sounds strong on paper. Military assets are staying put, ready for action until there's a real agreement. That's supposed to project strength. But, on the ground, it's chaos. Iran is threatening to walk if Israeli strikes keep coming. Israel's making it crystal clear. They're ready to jump right back into war. That's not a ceasefire. That's a ticking clock. Now, let's talk leverage. The Strait of Hormuz is only 22 miles wide. The actual shipping lanes? Just 2 miles across. Iran controls one side, and that's all it takes. Mines, fast attack boats, short-range missiles, cheap, effective ways to disrupt billions in global trade. They say Iran lacks leverage? That's completely false. When you control a choke point for 20% of the world's oil, you have massive leverage, and right now, Iran is using it. This is strategic pressure, plain and simple. Slow down shipping, threaten access, even float the idea of charging a toll, up to $1 a barrel. Some of these tankers carry millions of barrels. That's millions per ship just to pass through. But here's the real point. This isn't just about nuclear talks anymore. This is about who controls the flow of global energy. If Iran proves it can disrupt that whenever it wants, it wins major power on the world stage. So, what's this really? A ceasefire or a setup? Because if the tankers stop moving, if oil markets snap, this doesn't stay local. It becomes a global crisis overnight. Watch what happens next. The next few days will show if Iran's serious about a deal or just playing for leverage. And right now, this doesn't look like peace. It looks like a warning. Like and subscribe for more updates.